Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mentor Mentee's very first podcast episode. My name is Anjelika Surprise, and I'm the marketing manager here at Mentor Mentee. And today I'm joined with our CEO, Ron Helmer, and our COO, Sammer Dammer. Thank you both for joining me today. We thought that since June is Automotive Service Professionals Month and also includes Technician Appreciation Week, this felt like the right time to have a bigger conversation about technician appreciation. They, of course, deserve the shout-outs and the thank yous and all the team lunches, but appreciation should also show up in ways that are felt every single day. And with that being said, I think that gives us a great place to start. Ron, when you hear technician appreciation, what do you think shops and dealerships usually picture first?
One of the things that I think leaders can show appreciation, and this is not derivative of title of leadership, but just being engaged and involved with your technicians on a daily basis. And a lot of that can be done by management by walking around. So if you have a technician that this week has been killing it, maintaining the time to repair, knocked out a couple extra ROs, and it's one of those situations where you can give them that individual appreciation. Now, certainly, if you have a setting where you're doing daily or weekly meetings, and you got some kind of KPI that's tracking those types of matrices, then certainly, yes, you want to call that individual out. But appreciation isn't necessarily tied to a calendar,
Right.
right?
Right.
Even if an individual is, on the cusp of making a leap forward relative to productivity, quality. Now, there's a way to show appreciation there by saying, hey, I really appreciate how hard you've been working. You've been making great progress. You're this close. That goes a long way. And it goes a long way if there's this ethos, right? This relationship of respect that the individual has with whoever in the organization that has that leadership role. So I think there's two things there.
Agree. I was a part of a really great conversation the other day, not just technicians that are asking these questions, but perhaps service leaders as well on how they can better support the technicians. Because I mean, we've all seen the surveys, we've seen what they want. They want clarity, they want transparency, they want to know where they're at sort of in their career and how they're actually helping the business move forward. So how do you think a clear career pathway can change the way a technician feels about staying and growing with the company?
It all comes down to purposeful, intentional action. With that comes accountability and responsibility. But, as leaders, it's our responsibility to kind of paint the pathway forward for these individuals. And if you're in a situation where you don't necessarily have that clearly defined pathway for them, you know, 30-second, 60-second interaction, is only going to go so far.
Right.
But if you have something in place that shows that you as an organization value the work that they do, the contributions that they make by providing a clear, concise pathway for them to grow and develop in their own career path. Not only just that, but you have support mechanisms in place through the mentoring relationships, either with senior technicians, the shop foreman, dispatch folks, the service manager, the fixed ops. Then unequivocally at the end of the day, as an individual, that it's entirely up to you to be successful. Everything's in place, right? So if you think about an organization where they don't necessarily have that investment in place, now you're combating, you know, your own ability, but trying to find a way to be successful in spite of a scenario by which it's not clearly defined, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean the individual can be successful, but it's going to take them longer to reach those certain levels. And that does no good for the individual nor the organization.
Right. Got to lay that path out so they know what they're working towards.
Just to really follow suit with what Ron was just saying there, the shops that retain technicians long term specifically usually pair recognition with visible next steps. And that's really where that career pathway sets up the recognition components, whether it's a promotion track, a certification goal, ASE certifications, OEM requirements. Those are bite sized chunks that everyone gets to grow and move down that pathway. Someone who knows the shop, knows the brand, and is ultimately invested in their growth begins to follow that path.
Every shop is different. And so I think that being able to show that path, not only with those programs in mind, but as it's pertains to each individual shop.
I think there's a distinct difference between academic competencies and practical competencies,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, to gain academic competencies, you can do it in a manner of different measures, which is classroom, lab, shop, book, instructor led. But then to be able to convert the academic competencies into practical competencies comes from having reps in the paint,
Right.
right? And generally speaking, what you'll find, not every repair order is the same. There's a lot of variables. So once you have had some experience, practical experience, building upon your academic competencies,
Mm-hmm.
that's really where you as a technician can excel because you've kind of figured out the tricks of the trade in certain situations that are not necessarily covered in the academic process. Does that make
Right.
sense? That's why mentoring is so important because some of these senior techs have been doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They know those secrets, right? And being able to share those secrets is going to do nothing but accelerate that junior technician's competencies and productivity, which thereby, benefits the entire organization.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean you take shortcuts, you sacrifice quality. That's not what I'm saying. But if you think about it from an athletic standpoint, you know, regardless if it's amateur athletics, collegiate, or professional, everybody practices. And they all practice for a reason, but there's nothing that can simulate game time situations in practice. So
Right.
that's why it's important.
Yes. So, what responsibility do you guys think once a technician enters the shop does the business have in keeping that development moving forward? Like you said, we've got academic versus applied competencies. Is that on the technician themselves or is that on the business?
Well, that's on the business, right? So, to be able to tap into the unlocked potential of an organization's greatest asset, which is its people,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that have to align. Doesn't mean that they're perfect, but there has to be intentionality and there has to be a commitment and it's culture, environment for growth and development, as well as empowering people, right?
Yep.
You can certainly lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if that's what you're faced with, then you may have potentially the wrong hire.
Mm-hmm.
What is the thing that always kind of gets organizations in trouble is that they go through this extensive process of identifying and interviewing and hiring folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they put them out into the space and they just kind of let them go.
Right.
And I'm not saying that holistically happens across the board, but it all comes down to how are you measuring
Mm-hmm.
the effectiveness of your people and without that visibility to give you an understanding of how an individual is progressing through, entry level to C, C to B, B to A, you really are just kind of guessing.
One thing that Ron just said was measure. Well, if you're not measuring it, you cannot manage it. It's a very well known quote. So when it comes to the actual mentorship program, most will assign a mentor and they'll have the standard check ins. But are they truly tracking those measurements? How do they know that they're succeeding? How do they know that, hey, we've got to go focus on this because people are not exactly getting it right off the bat? And once you start measuring it, then you can start managing that process. Laying out that path is the first step. From there, it's getting a little more detailed. Where are the bottlenecks in this process? If you're not measuring it, it's kind of hard to manage the
Right.
overall program.
What do you think happens when a shop has good intentions but no real structure for mentoring or skill development?
I say the intentions kind of still stay invisible if you're telling the technicians, "Hey, we've got a mentoring program and here it is step by step," and laying it out, then they have something to grab onto and buy into. But if it's just putting everyone together and there's no real structure, it's a little bit of walking around in a dark room and hoping you don't stub your toe. So, really thinking about the structured development and creating that structure behind it is very important for the overall health of the mentoring program.
Yeah, I think intention is kind of visionary, right?
Hmm.
A lot of organizations have great intentions, unequivocally. The problem is that with everything that they are doing and managing on a day-to-day basis, it's the old saying, "The squeaky wheel gets the grease," right?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure that there's a lot of organizations that do strategic planning sessions. They meet monthly, quarterly. I think a lot of the organizations out there that have great intentions, the only thing that's missing is the right solution, right?
Mhm.
A lot of them are trying to figure out how to do it on their own.
Right.
And part of that is that there really isn't anything in the marketplace that has shown itself to them that is going to match their great intentions with great results,
Mhm.
right? And I think that that's the beautiful thing about Mentor Mentee is that it was derived and designed and developed specifically for that reason.
Yes.
And it's not about trying to reinvent the wheel. It's about understanding and knowing what it is that you're trying to accomplish, finding a tool or a resource that can do that, that doesn't require a ton of heavy lift, additional management, ungodly amount of training to
Right.
utilize the tool or the resource. So good intentions will only get you so far, right? But at least there's an awareness in the industry that it is a problem that requires some attention.
It's definitely something that we keep hearing more and more. How do you think that better visibility into technician skills help not just the technician, but the entire service operation?
Well, I don't know that there's ever a situation where you have too much visibility, but in working with other organizations in the past, a quote that I've heard that seems somewhat asinine is that, I have A-level certified technicians that are not able to do A-level certified work, right? And that kind of goes back to that academic versus practical competency. But being able to track and record reps in the paint in
Mhm.
each and every step throughout the process of an individual's career pathway, again, regardless if they're entry level C, B, A, all the way to master,
Yep.
under the guidance and tutelage of a senior technician as well as shop management, it really kind of creates an understanding of who can do what
Right.
to what level. And
Yes.
I think that the advantage there is that it goes back to recognizing
Mhm.
the accomplishments of the technician, providing some sense of appreciation
Mhm.
for the effort that they're putting forth, taking responsibility and command and control of their own development, utilizing the system of the process you have in place. But it also provides operational advantages to now your service advisors, your dispatchers, your shop managers, because now you've got a clear pathway relative to how you're distributing that workload, right?
Yeah.
Based on the IROs.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that in place, you kind of go off of gut,
Yes.
which generally speaking is 65% right. But that can create an unintended result, which is you're overtasking some of your senior technicians
Yes.
because you're afraid of labor overruns, you're afraid of comebacks, you're afraid of delays in repair, which bottlenecks other ROs that are tagged in behind. And when you talk to fixed ops folks and they're doing a firefight first thing in the morning to get things going and keeping it on track and then checking in after the lunch hour to see if everything's still on track or if something got sideways. If you want to make real time, actionable decisions, course corrections, having visibility of where your texts stand relative to their practical competency, that's getting access to the untapped resources of your most valuable asset.
You can really identify where the gaps are, why things might be taking too long. You can drill down into individual person when you're tracking stuff at that kind of level. Right tech, right job, first time.
The only thing that I want to add to this one is now you've got data backed conversations. You've got actual numbers, you've got levels, you've got visibility, like I mentioned earlier, in the bottlenecks, but also where to congratulate, where to really have those tough one on one conversations. It eliminates we've got 3 technicians near master level. Like Ron was saying, that gut feeling, and you have actual numbers. You can possibly get a date now and say, hey, we're going to have 3 master level technicians in about a month. And let's see how this next month goes. And so that we can ensure that we get them to that master level.
It's relative to the visibility question as well as the appreciation of the technicians. And I think the one thing that you will start to gain is visibility around the engagement of your senior technician.
Yes.
So if they're in a situation where now they're just not, coming in on a daily basis and, just working through the repair orders that they have, but they have a small window of opportunity to kind of pay it forward to pass down to the younger generation
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge that they have, you should start to see some excitement build around that, right?
Yeah.
So as these technicians are developing, obviously those individuals are getting that appreciation for the effort and commitment they're putting in, but so is their mentor because their mentor is the one that's helping.
Right.
And so you kind of are able to attack this from both ends, both from your less senior technicians and your more senior technicians.
Mm.
And you will start to see who's really buying into that, and you'll start to see the overall impact and the
Yeah.
influence of it, which can do nothing but provide huge dividends.
Absolutely. It's showing the younger generation that the organization is investing in them and their growth. And it's also showing the seasoned technicians, it gives them a new purpose in their job, their day to day. They've been doing this for so many years. It reignites them. It's fantastic. Everybody wins in this situation. What kind of best practices or tribal knowledge do you think experienced technicians pass down that may not be taught in a course or a class?
Efficiency patterns. A technician that has 20 years of experience is going to see similar issues when coming to a repair order. If there's a common issue with a transmission that they have seen, you know, a few hundred times over the last 10 years, they already know what steps to get the repair order completed. So when they bring on the new technician and they say, okay, I know the book says to do it exactly step by step this way, but what they don't tell you is on step 4, you need this specialized tool, or you need to look at it from this point of view. Having those small little efficiency components that show up in the training really starts to drive not only the knowledge of the seasoned technician, but the new technician starts to look at it and go, you know what? I'm so glad that Frank showed me that, because the last time I looked at a very similar repair order, it took me twice as long. Had I known to look at step 4 and look at it from this point of view, I could have done this in a much quicker time frame or even a better
More
quality.
efficient.
Yeah, more efficient.
More
Um,
efficient ways to do things.
Well,
yeah,
and that's huge when you look at the time to repair, right?
Yep.
So
yeah,
senior technicians know the value of nailing that time to repair, regardless if it's warranty work or customer pay,
Yep.
right?
yeah.
That's getting access to that untapped portion of people and creating those connections. So there is a conduit of tribal knowledge that goes from senior technicians down to junior technicians. And even you'll find cases where mentors will learn something new from the mentee. Oh, what if we tried it this way? Well, I never thought of that. Okay, well, let's see what happens. And boom, you got something that, magically happens.
It creates this culture of engagement for everyone where they get to pass down the tribal knowledge, builds people up both ways, and just creates that mentorship relationship.
Especially
Yeah.
as technology continues to
Yeah, that's a
accelerate.
big one. Cars
You
are
know,
becoming computers.
they are. And who tends to be better with technology? The younger generations. And so something that I've heard, I was at a heavy duty diesel conference and a mentor stood up and said, I learned from my mentee just as much as my mentee learns from me. For example, the seasoned technician knows the technical side and is guiding the mentee. But how many of us have fought with our computers because something is not working correctly? And then the mentee goes, "Oh, I know what's going on. You need to close these windows and reopen this, refresh it." And it's really interesting to see that one-on-one relationship where the mentor starts to know how to fix the small nuances when it comes to a computer because they're frustrated. Meanwhile, the mentee is frustrated because they feel like they're not getting the right knowledge. And when the two come together, you just see this powerful team, if you will, of both people getting growth and then celebrating each of their wins. Like when they start joking at the lunch table and they go, "Oh man, he had so much trouble pulling that transmission. Yeah, but you couldn't close the browser window, and I had to help you with that." It's just really cool hearing those stories. But in the end, who wins? The mentoring program, the shop. They get two technicians to work well together and they build upon one another. So I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, knowledge transfer on both sides. So we've been talking a lot about ways and how we can show appreciation day to day. What do you say to a leader who says we appreciate our technicians, but we don't have time to build out a formal development process?
When you look below the surface of that statement, they're dealing with the day-to-day aspects of what's going
Hmm.
on in the organization, right?
Right.
And relative to the level of ROs coming in and going out, and what's the makeup of those ROs? What's their tech bench look like? What's the competencies of the tech bench? I mean, it's very obvious that a lot of organizations are in the day-to-day firefight.
Hmm.
Granted, sometimes when you're so far, you know, into the forest, you can't see the trees, and it's an understandable statement, 100%.
Yes.
But if you want to have cause and effect with change, you have to look at it from the perspective of what are the costs if we don't do anything different.
Hmm.
Now, the obvious is not always the answer, right?
Right.
So the first question I would be asking as a leader in that environment is there a specific tool out there that can get us to 70%, 80% of where we need to be to have something in place that is starting to address these issues?
Hmm.
Not just moving somebody from maybe academic competencies to practical competencies, but kind of looking at how do we train our own technicians so we can get off this hamster wheel, which is recruitment, retention, recruitment, retention.
100%.
So I would say to an individual along those lines, one, what is it going to cost you long term if you don't do anything different? Two, is there a tool or resource in the market that you can get access to that has minimal cost for investment that can be a cost negative, where essentially the program will pay for itself, right? If used correctly in a short period of time, create a unique identifier between you and the competition, your geo market, which is you actually have something in place that's investing in your people for their advancement and development.
Hmm.
You're creating greater opportunities for improved effective labor rate, total number of ROs per technician, clawback on billable hours, because now you've got a situation where your time to repair is a lot closer to where it needs to be.
Yep.
So you have reduced labor overruns, reduced risk of callbacks because your quality is good. And now you've got a situation where word starts to get out on the street. Hey, we need to go work for this organization because they actually have something in place that's going to help me grow as a technician versus where I'm at.
Right.
All of those are conversations that can happen with leaders. And I always say an objection is nothing more than a question,
Mm.
which is derived from a lack of understanding or information. And if you can provide good information to the leaders, then that question becomes a lot less daunting and not something that seems like it's insurmountable.
Right.
It's a lot like what Ron was saying. If you don't have time to spend on developing a program and really focusing and honing in the technicians, do you have the time to spend it on recruiting and retention every 12 to 18 months? You get into this revolving door, and the ones that are successful, the revolving door becomes a one-way valve. People coming in, wanting to stay and grow, and ultimately lifting the shop as a whole. Then you start to find that time. But if you're spending your time recruiting and hoping that you're retaining, the key word there being hoping, then you're just spending more time. So why not spend the time now so that that way you can better your odds?
Well, what is one simple shift shops can make to turn appreciation into something more meaningful and something technicians can feel every single day beyond June?
Consistency.
Consistency. Love it.
You don't need a month to show appreciation,
No.
right? Good culture, good environment, celebrate their people.
Yep.
They uplift those that are putting forth the effort to succeed and maybe haven't gotten over that hump yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, just be consistent. And it doesn't have to be bells and whistles and fireworks and cupcakes, right? It's
Yeah.
just a simple pat on the back. Hey, you're doing great. I see the effort. I know you're butting up against some challenges. Just keep plugging away. We're here to support you. If you need any help, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. The sooner you do that, the quicker you'll get over that hump, the quicker you'll get to success. We just appreciate you showing up. Great attitude, great effort. It's contagious. It's changing the culture in our environment. Just be consistent with that.
Yep. Consistency is key. Sammer, what do you think? Do you agree or do you
Can
have another?
I agree. I agree. Consistency is such a great term, but I would also pair that with communication.
Yeah.
A lot of times in our heads we're like, "Ooh, we need to celebrate this," or "I need to be sure to tell them that." Did you actually tell them that? Did you communicate with the mentee, with the mentor, with anyone on the team? Hey, I saw what you did and I'm so happy you did it. You helped us in XYZ. You can also ask them, where do they want to be in 2 years? It doesn't even have to be 2 years. Where do they want to be in 6 months? Being a part of their life. We go to work every single day and we're with this team. I would call it a family
Yeah.
because when you go home, you have your actual family, right? But this
Mm.
is the family that gets you through frustration. They celebrate. They see your success. But we also want to make sure that that success is where the mentee really wants to go. I've seen it where mentees want to be a transmission specialist. That doesn't mean they're going to be the overall master technician at the shop. Maybe that's what they really like. Same thing with electrical. Me personally, I don't like wires, but I celebrate anyone who's really good at it and really wants to hone in those skills. So make sure you're communicating and understand where they want to go.
Yeah. One of the things that I found useful in organizations that I've led in the past is that anytime we have an opportunity to celebrate success for an individual, it's not relegated just to that department, right? So I always required my managers and leaders to bring to attention for everybody in the organization.
Yeah.
And I encouraged those folks and I encouraged them to the point where it almost made it sound like it was mandatory for them, but for them to go out and actually physically talk to the individual and give them recognition. So it doesn't matter if it's somebody in finance or the general manager or somebody in executive leadership or the fixed ops director or the parts manager, whatever the technicians are doing is key to all these other organizations. So
Right.
if I'm a technician and I'm a C-level technician and I did something that was good, I'm gonna welcome, the general manager coming out on the floor and say, "Hey, I heard you did something great. I really appreciate it. Give me a fist bump." I mean, that can have a lot of impact. And an organization
Yeah.
probably should look at instituting that level of communication, like Sammer was talking about, to
Mhm.
where it's not just coming from the service manager or the shop foreman, but it lets that individual know that the organization as a whole is talking about the successes of the team holistically. And there's value because these individuals are stepping away from their day to day, coming.
Yeah. And it makes that person feel good, and want to do that again. So
Well,
it
not just that
establishes
person, but the technician in the bay next to them,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So everybody wants to feel validated, seen, and appreciated.
Yep.
So that in of itself creates a contagious nature within a culture and environment that if you feed it, it will grow.
Yes,
It's a
100%.
virtuous cycle. Yeah, I totally agree.
Empower a person, you empower the whole team. I love it. All right, well, this feels like a great place to wrap up. Technician appreciation matters, but really the impact comes when that appreciation shows up in the way technicians are supported every single day. Ron, Sammer, thank you both for joining me, and thank you to everyone watching and listening to our very first podcast episode. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.